everyone. I'm Josephine Hardman. I am a professional tarot reader and Akashic Records reader and a certified intuitive healer. And I am so excited to be part of this beautiful, inspiring summit put together by Brenda Lean. So I wanted to express my gratitude to her first for putting all of this together and to you for being here with me right now. So today my presentation is on the tarot. So we're going to be talking about the tarot a little bit. And I think we have to start just by defining what the tarot actually is. So the way that I understand the cards is that they are a psycho-spiritual tool which addresses so many different aspects and layers of our being, right? So it can address our psyches and our psychological aspects, but also the mental aspects and even physical health, spiritual health, right? Our connection to source, our abundance, right? So finances, relationships, really anything that you can think of, anything that you're experiencing in your life right now. The tarot can help you move through it more intentionally, and with greater awareness, and it also reflects back to you whatever is truly going on underneath the surface of your life and of the experiences that you're having. So the tarot is also a reflective tool, which is amazing. Okay, so we do have to dispel one myth, though, which is that the tarot is not really a fortune-telling device, right? And ultimately, if we really think about it, there are no fortune-telling devices that we can use. There never could be, because we are creating our realities and our lives as we go along, which I'm sure you already know, right? Because you're taking part in this spiritual summit. Maybe you've been working with Brenda Lean for a while, and so you know by now you are a co-creator of your reality with the universe, which means that the future is not predetermined or set in stone in any way. You are actually influencing your future with all of the big and small choices that you make in every moment of every day. So the tarot, very often clients and people and students will come and they will ask questions like, well, when am I going to move? Or when am I going to get that promotion? Or when am I going to meet, the man of my dreams or the woman of my dreams? And at the end of the day, these are not very productive questions, because the cards prefer to give us answers that are more complex than that, more complex than questions that start with when or where, right? So if we're asking, well, where am I going to move? Then it's difficult to get a clear answer through the cards, because really what the cards want to give you is more information and more clarity so you can make these choices yourself as you move through your life. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're actually going to go through 3 different cards together, and we're going to explore their energies, and we're going to figure out how we can activate these energies in our own lives, right? Because the tarot deals with archetypes and universal images and symbols and numbers and energies and all of these things that can actually be really helpful and life-affirming and bring us greater abundance, greater peace, greater consciousness, greater awareness when we activate these energies in our own lives. So there's great healing that can be accessed through the tarot, and that's really what we're going to be looking at with these 3 different cards. So as you follow along, I wonder if you might be able to take out a piece of paper and a pen, because I'm going to give you a few journaling prompts for each of these 3 questions. Which is going to enable you to work or start working with some of the cards' energies. And then, of course, if you have your own deck, or you're working with the cards yourself, then you can create some additional journaling prompts for any other card that you pull out of the deck, right? And this is one of the primary ways that we can work with the cards in our own lives, other than just giving readings to ourselves, is by, pulling a card and then really asking questions and engaging in a dialogue with that card. And these are questions that are going to bring greater clarity and are going to illuminate different aspects of your life. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do these 3 different examples. And I'm also going to give you, I think, 2 other exercises throughout this presentation, or maybe more towards the end, which you can use in your own life to connect with the tarot deck and to start doing some of this healing work yourself. Okay, so our first card, which we will be working with together, is the Fool, which I felt would be appropriate since this is actually the first card in the deck, right? So the Fool kicks off the major arcana, which are really the first 22 cards in the deck. So the Fool is actually numbered 0. And that 0 to me represents an egg, okay? Because the 0 looks like an egg. So if we think about an egg, of course, we're thinking about new beginnings, right? Or new things that are coming to fruition, new things that are coming around the corner, right? And so this card really represents new beginnings, new starts, new adventures, a new journey. As you can see, this figure is standing here on this cliff, but moving into something new, right? And the beautiful thing about the Fool is that he has worked through a lot of his old baggage and his old wounds, old trauma, all of this stuff, right? Which is why he's only carrying this really small little bag, which you can see here. So he's not carrying a lot of baggage. He's not moving through life, heavy and burdened and carrying a lot of stuff from the past, because he's already worked through that stuff, which means that he can move through life and navigate life in a lighter way, which is ideally what we're trying to do when we do healing work, right? Okay, and the other very important part about this card is that the Fool is looking up into the heavens, right? So you can see there where he's looking. So he's not looking at the path that is unfolding in front of him. He can't even see that he's gonna walk right off this cliff, right? If he takes that next step. But why is this so important? It's because he has total trust and faith in the universe, and in the fact that if he moves through life in an aligned, connected way, right? So if he's connected to spirit and he's connected to source energy, when he takes that next step, the universe is going to rise up to meet him. And okay, so finally, the last thing we could say about this card, at least for right now, is that the Fool has also conquered his fears of looking silly or looking stupid, or feeling ashamed or feeling embarrassed, right? So he's gotten to a place in his life where he just wants to be himself and he just wants to be authentic 24/7. And he's not as concerned with other people's opinions or reactions to him, which is another wonderful place that we're all striving to get to, right? And so if you want to work with the energy of the Fool and activate some of this energy in your own life, let's think of some really good journaling prompts that you could ask, and then you could go, and write down the answers, and whatever comes is fine. So a few good questions for the Fool might be, okay, so what new journey or adventure is your soul calling you to embark on right now? So what's coming next for you in terms of where your heart is pulling you or where your soul is calling you to go? And how can you actually embark on that adventure and that journey? Is there anything that's standing in the way? Is there any obstacle that you need to clear out of the way? Have you worked through your old baggage, right? So that you can release most of it and move through life in a lighter way. And also, is there any sense of shame or fear of rejection or fear of embarrassment or fear of failure that's getting in the way of you moving in this new direction that your soul is calling you to go? Because very often those things can get in the way, right? So those would be really great questions to ask yourself about your own life, to start to figure out, okay, where could I apply or use or integrate more of the energies of the Fool, and activate those energies so that I can move forward with greater trust, greater faith, and totally connected to the universe as the Fool is. Okay, so that's the Fool number 0, our first card. And you can work with those questions to get some of those Fool juices flowing in your own life. Okay, and so now we're going to move into our second card for today, which is the Empress. So this is card number 3 in the Major Arcana, and today we are dealing only with Major Arcana cards because they tend to deal with more of these primordial, essential, universal archetypes, right, which are kind of like part of that collective unconscious, right, if we're thinking about Jung and all of these kind of theories of how the world operates and how that collective unconscious operates. That's where these archetypes reside, and that's where they come from. So our second card is the Empress. And this card does have a few things in common with the Fool, right? First of all, we can see that the backgrounds are really similar, right? So we've got this bright yellow background. It feels warm, it feels sunny. And that's another really great way of working with your cards, is by asking, okay, when I put them side by side, what do these cards have in common? What are the common elements? What are the common threads? Or how can I work with these two cards in combination with each other, right? Which maybe we'll explore in a little bit after I talk about the Empress. Okay, so this is the card of creativity. And you can think about the Empress as a muse, or maybe a kind of spirit guide in terms of your creativity and your ability to express yourself creatively and to do creative projects, and all of these wonderful things that we all want to do in our lives. So I don't know if you can tell based on this image, but the Empress is actually pregnant. So she is physically pregnant, which has a lot to do with, of course, fertility, abundance, procreation. Although it doesn't mean that, like if you pull this card, it doesn't mean, oh, you're going to be pregnant next month. Because as we said, the tarot is not really a fortune-telling tool. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, although it might indicate, okay, so at some point you will be expanding your family or something like that. But it might also mean just metaphorically this sense of being pregnant with ideas, pregnant with projects, right? Pregnant with inspiration, and just pregnant with those creative juices that inspire us to move into a new project, whether we're doing it with ourselves or with someone else, right? Because it could be a collaborative project. And you can see really everything around the Empress on this card supports this idea of fertility and abundance. I mean, we've got the fields of wheat down here, which are totally abundant, just waiting to be harvested, right? And we've got the trees, we've got the stream in the back. Can you see that stream there? Which represents flow, right? And being in that creative flow and everything just moving effortlessly in your life. And you just giving birth to all of these creative projects and ideas, just one after the other. Okay, so that's the Empress. And of course, since we're talking about creativity, some of the journaling prompts for this card might be, questions like, okay, so when is it easy for you to be creative and when is it difficult for you to be creative? Or what gets in the way of you being creative and applying your creative gifts, right? Or is there any obstacle that's getting in the way of your creativity? Another good question to ask with the Empress, especially for those of us who are women, okay, because this card has a lot to do with mother-daughter relationships as well, because the Empress is really kind of like the primordial mother of the tarot deck. So she's got the super maternal, nurturing energy, which is another element of her creativity and of her sort of qualities. And so you can use this card also to heal mother-daughter relationships, or to think about your own maternal and nurturing energy when it comes to yourself, right? So how do you treat yourself on a day-to-day basis? What are the things that you say to yourself in your inner dialogue? Because many of us have that harsh inner critic, right? Or that sort of like slave driver or a perfectionist, or all of these elements of ourselves which are really not nurturing. They're actually the opposite of nurturing, and they can really affect how we feel about ourselves. And so this card can help you explore a greater sense of cultivating unconditional love and acceptance for yourself, and nurturing and mothering yourself maybe the way that you were not nurtured and mothered when you were growing up. So all of that leads me to the next journaling prompt, which might be something like, okay, so in this lifetime, how does my relationship look like with my mother, right? Or my mother figure in this lifetime? And also, do I have this benevolent inner mother within myself that I can access when I need to be nurtured and comforted and soothed, which very often we're not properly seen or heard or soothed or comforted when we are growing up or when we are children, right? And so we have to learn how to give those things to ourselves. And the Empress can help you with that journey of rediscovering, like, what does nurturing actually look like? What are the words that I can speak to myself in my inner dialogue that are going to support my growth and my healing and extend that unconditional self-acceptance to myself, instead of beating myself down or judging myself, or just getting down on myself or making a mistake or whatever, which we all can do. But it's so important to move out of that harsh, negative, critical inner dialogue and into more of a place of nurturing, which is represented by this card. Okay, so that was our second card, and now we move into our third card for this presentation. So don't be scared, okay? But we're gonna be working with the Devil. And I actually picked this card very intentionally because I wanted to dispel, maybe a second myth, right? So the first myth is that the tarot is not a fortune-telling tool. It never will be. It just can't operate that way, because we are creating our realities and our lives as we go along. And the second myth is that, so the tarot is evil, or it's scary, or if you work with the cards, you're opening yourself up to maybe, negative forces or negative entities or whatever. All of that stuff is really not true unless you're using the cards, to try to manipulate someone else, or to try to control someone else, or to try to get information about someone else's life, which are obviously unethical things that I know you're not going to do. So if you're not doing that stuff and you are shielding yourself and grounding yourself and protecting yourself, and working with the cards in ethical, responsible ways that are aligned with source energy, then there's really no fear. And nothing bad is going to happen, I promise you. And so, okay, this is a card, the Devil, which whenever it shows up in readings for clients, I can tell from the expressions on their faces that they're a little bit or a lot freaked out by this card, and that's why I wanted us to go through it, because I want to show you that it doesn't have to be scary. Okay, so you are getting a sense of what this card looks like. It does look scary. I mean, we can't really get around that, right? With a black background, I mean, let's say if we compare it to the Empress, the energy is totally radically different. Here we've got the sun, we've got the yellow background, we've got the abundance and nature and all of these things. And here it's just black and stark, and this kind of larger than life devil figure, and the man and the woman are in chains. I mean, it looks pretty scary, but actually it's really not, because any card that comes up for you in a reading or when you're working with a tarot is for your highest good and healing. And this is no exception. because the devil is a card of a self-imposed bondage, and those self-limiting belief and value systems that we sometimes internalize, right? Maybe from our families of origin, maybe from the culture, society, wherever we grew up, from school, from church, from all of these social institutions, which sometimes teach us these unhelpful belief systems and value systems and just limiting thought patterns, which then as adults we have to do the work of really kind of shedding that stuff, right? And getting back to who we really are and what we really believe about how the world operates. Okay, so the devil is a card of self-imposed bondage and self-limiting patterns, belief systems, behaviors. This card also has a lot to do with addiction, right? Especially so things like overeating or drinking excessively, or having reckless sex, or just shopping addiction, or watching too much TV. Okay, all of these things that we do that really get in the way of our full enjoyment of life, and sometimes even cause us to become unhealthy, right? And to just move into areas and situations that are toxic and that we really don't want to be in those places. Okay, so the beautiful thing about the devil when it shows up is that it's reminding you that you are giving your power away in some situation in your life, and that it's now time to reclaim that power. So it could be that you're giving your power away to an actual person, right, in an actual situation, and that you need to take that power back by saying no, by setting clear boundaries, by clarifying your intentions about what you want for yourself, and then speaking that, right? So speaking your voice, speaking your mind, all of these things. But it could also be that you're giving your power away to an inner demon. Okay, so the devil can represent an inner demon that resides somewhere within yourself. So for example, like a demon of addiction, right? Or a demon of self-sabotage, or a demon of, say, like shame, right? Or not believing in yourself, or perfectionism, which can be really destructive. So all of these destructive tendencies are represented by this card. So when we work with a card like this, I mean, we're doing it really from a courageous place, right? So we have to have courage, and we have to have the willingness to go there and to be really honest with ourselves. Because some of the journaling prompts you might want to ask if you are working with the devil might include questions like, okay, so where am I giving my power away in my life right now? And why have I given my power away? What motivated me or drove me to get to this place where I'm just giving my power away instead of taking it back, right? Or what has motivated me to silence myself? Let's say if you have fears about really speaking your mind in a relationship or with your family or at work or wherever, that might be another good question to ask. So it's really, essentially the question here is about where are you engaging in this form of self-imposed bondage, right? So where are you sabotaging yourself? Where are you holding yourself back? Where are you keeping yourself in chains rather than liberating yourself to just be fully authentic, to go for your dreams, to do what feels most aligned to you? All of these questions, which are so, so, so important, especially when we are stuck in patterns of thought or behavior that really just don't serve us, right? And that get us into trouble. Okay, so those are some of the very important questions you can ask and explore and examine as you work with the energy of the devil in your own life. And the last thing I want to say about the devil, which is kind of on a lighter note, is that this guy is really playful. Okay, so that's the other aspect of the devil. This card is often an invitation to playfulness, and to kind of just letting go and letting loose, which some of us sometimes need to do in our lives, right? So if we're taking things too seriously, or we're working too much and we're not taking enough time to rest, right? Or just play or just enjoy life, then sometimes this guy will come up to say, hey, you need to have a little bit of a party here, right? You need to move away from your work for a little bit and just enjoy yourself, enjoy your life, do the things that you love, and get back to that sense of like whimsy, right? And joyfulness and playfulness that you once had as a child. So that can be another message with the devil. And it really an important message, because playfulness is a big deal, and it can be really, really healing to move more into a playful space in our lives. Okay, so these are the 3 cards that we have examined and played with today. Here they are all together. And as I said, you can go through your own deck, and even working with the minor arcana cards, right, which include the 4 suits of swords, pentacles, wands, and cups. You can do the same thing with every single card in the deck, of just pulling it out, looking at it, getting a sense of the energy of the card. And you can do this even if you don't know the traditional sort of like book meanings of each card. You can just gaze into the card and get a sense of the energy from a more intuitive place, right? Because obviously if you're looking at the Fool intuitively, you know, yeah, there's a sense of adventure, there's a sense of warmth with the sun, there's a sense of moving into something new. And with the Devil, of course, right, it's a kind of a, what's the word I want to use? Maybe a more severe kind of energy, right? Because of the black background and all of these things. And so you can look at the cards intuitively, get a sense of their energies, and then ask them some questions and journal about that. So engage in dialogue with the cards. Another good thing that you can do if you want to start to incorporate the tarot into your daily life experience and into your healing work. So one really good thing to do is to pull a card every morning. So as soon as you get up, right, you have your coffee, you do whatever you need to do, and then pull a card, and then write down a couple of words or thoughts or sentences or questions that come to you as you are gazing into that card. And you can also ask the question before you pull the card, you know, okay, what kind of energy or mood or attitude do I need for this day? Like, what would be helpful for me to incorporate into my day today? And then you pull a card and you see what comes up. And then at the end of the day, you can pull another card, you know, to ask maybe more a question about, okay, so what was the most useful part of today? Or what should I learn from this one experience that I had today, right? Whatever the experience was. And so you can do and I call these kind of like bookends for the day, right? So you pull a card in the morning to get a sense of, okay, what kind of energy do I need to adopt for the day? And then you pull a card at the end of the day asking, all right, so what do I need to remember about today moving forward? Or what am I supposed to learn from this experience that I had today? And that gives you a really clear sense of how you are using your day to move through your spiritual journey, and to heal in the areas that you need to heal, and to pay attention to the things that are really sort of calling you to go there and that require your attention on a particular day. So you can do that with the bookend readings. And then the last thing I'm going to suggest, which is actually one of my favorite exercises, is that you can do a tarot card meditation. So basically what you would do is you pull a card, and here, let's go back to the Empress, right, which is a really kind of pleasant, beautiful card. So you would pull out the card, you gaze into the world and the landscape of the card, and then you close your eyes. Maybe you get your, you know, little meditation music, or just kind of like pleasant, you know, music, background music. And then you visualize that you're stepping into the world of the card. So if you were to step into this world, and the world would extend, right? So you are getting more of a sense of a 3D kind of experience of the card. Then what is there for you to explore? Like, can you walk over to the stream? Can you walk into the woods here in the back? Can you walk over here and see what's over here in the card? And also, can you have a conversation with the Empress herself if you step into the world of the card, right? And again, there you can bring your journaling prompts into your meditation and kind of try to visualize yourself having a dialogue with the figure on the card. I hope that makes sense, because it's actually a really useful exercise, you know, and you can walk around and just investigate and explore the world of the card to really get a sense of its energies and everything that's going on in here, and to activate that creativity within yourself. So that's the last thing I'm going to offer you today in terms of exercises. And I really do hope that you will incorporate the tarot into your daily spiritual practices, because it's such a versatile tool. I mean, there's really infinite ways that we can work with it. And so thank you so much for spending this time with me and for sharing my love for the tarot, and for being willing to explore the cards, which, as I said, is such a helpful tool and such a helpful thing we can do for ourselves on this spiritual journey, on this journey of evolution, the evolution of your soul. Okay, so if you would like to connect with me, to talk tarot, to get a tarot reading, to learn more about the cards, I also offer tarot mentoring. You can do that at www.purefieldhealing.com. And I also know that Brendaline is gonna offer you a link which you can use to access a special offer. So if you've been interested in getting a professional tarot reading, you're gonna wanna check that out, because I am giving you a special offer so you can try this out for yourself and see if it works. And I would love to connect with you. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for being here. Keep doing your inner work and your healing work, which are so necessary for yourself and for the world. And enjoy the rest of the summit. Okay, bye everyone.